Welcome back, everyone, to Fireside Football. I'm Andrew Capps.
And I'm Andrew Williams.
Well, here we are. It's week 6 of the NFL. Usually by now we have some sense of who the pretenders are and who the contenders are.
Not this year.
That's very true. There's some teams that you wouldn't have thought that might be contenders like Tampa, and then there's teams that should have been contenders like Dallas and Minnie that maybe they're not.
Yeah, you get the feeling that this is a year where we don't know where anything's going to happen, how it's going to shake out.
Yeah, it's definitely been a different type season. Well, let's start off with a couple teams that we know are contenders. Baltimore, who arguably has looked the best in the NFL, going on the road to New England in a rematch of the AFC wild card matchup last week. What do you think's going to happen?
I like both of these teams. New England's made some big moves this week. Got rid of Randy Moss, sent him to Minnesota, went and brought in Deion Branch to kind of shore up the receiving corps. But personally, I still like Baltimore here. I think their offense has improved week by week. It's getting better and better, and now that passing offense is finally starting to look like we thought it might look in the preseason.
When they first brought in Bolden.
Now they get to go up against the Patriots secondary that has looked more than shoddy and try and take advantage of that. And I don't know that the Patriots are going to be able to fix their offense with all these changes so quickly to get ready for this game. I'm going to take Baltimore. How about you?
Well, there's a logical argument there. I can definitely see a lot of people like Baltimore. Rice finally broke off last week. McGahee's looked good the last couple weeks. Their passing game is coming into form. That defense is still one of the best in the league, if not the best in the league. But New England, there's a few reasons that I really like them in this game. One, typically Bill Belichick and the Patriots tend to get revenge on teams that they really want to get revenge on. Two, they're coming off their bye and now they're at home. That tends to help teams a lot. Didn't help a lot of teams last week, but typically it helps a lot of teams.
Well, the Patriots are typically very good coming off
a bye, especially when they're going to be playing at home. They had a lot of time to go and look at that Baltimore tape. And Aaron Hernandez, who has been a tight end who people thought was going to be number 2 on the depth chart behind Gronkowski, who they drafted in the first round, has emerged. He runs faster than some DBs that I've seen, never mind linebackers that are usually covering him. I think he's going to have a really big game here. And also another thing that stands out to me, Baltimore is -6 in turnover ratio this year in the NFL, which is dead last in the AFC. New England's a +4. They don't turn the ball over. You take away the Jets game, they turn the ball over this season. I really like New England in this game, in a very tight game. But it should be a great game, though.
I agree. Well, let's move on to a game. Those are two teams that look good. They look like contenders. Let's move to a game with two teams that have underperformed. Dallas visiting Minnesota in what looks like a must-win game for both teams.
I mean, both teams are 1-3. They really need this to get back. I think Dallas arguably needs it a little bit more just because they're chasing 3 teams as opposed to the 2 teams that Minnesota's chasing. In Minnesota head-to-head, I still like their chances against either of those teams, especially with Green Bay's problems. But Dallas, even though they might need it more, they've shown no signs of life. They make the mental mistakes that kill you week after week. They had some balance 2 weeks ago that I talked about on the show when they ran the ball well and it opened up a passing game and they won that game, lo and behold. So would they do that again? No, they would not. They tried passing the ball all game long and it didn't work out so well, having to come from behind last week. So I like Minnesota to pull this one out.
Well, I have to say, Dallas, they didn't pass the ball entirely last week. Felix Jones actually he's a lot better than he's looking. But their mental state, just so many mistakes, so many penalties, so many turnovers, and just bad plays that you can't make if you're going to be a competing team. Whereas Minnesota, I agree. I think they've had some rough times now. They've got Randy Moss. Thought they looked really pretty good in that Jets game on Monday night, and they just happened to be playing one of the better teams in the NFL.
Yeah, once the rain stopped and it was an equal playing field, yeah, they were able to move the ball well in that second half.
And now you've got them playing at home. They still have the best running back in the league. It looks like their offense is getting a little better, and that defense still looks rock solid. I don't see Dallas's offense being able to compete.
Yeah.
And I think Dallas is going to make too many mental errors in Minnesota.
As they usually do. Yeah, I agree with you. I definitely like Minnesota. All right, well, how about another team in that NFC North, the Green Bay Packers, the decimated Green Bay Packers at home against Miami coming off a bye. What do you think, Scott?
Well, I like Miami here. Like you said, Green Bay is so injured. You've got Aaron Rodgers, questionable with a concussion. We'll see if he can pass the test, but even so, is he all there mentally? Is he going to make some bad throws? You've got Ryan Grant out. Their left tackle is out. Clay Matthews may play, may not. And then you've got the Dolphins, well-rested, coming off a bye week, fired up over a loss right before to the Patriots, in which they had to fire one of their coaches. I think the Dolphins really need this game. The Packers don't quite have that must-win feel to them yet. They more have that injured feel, and I think this may be a week where the Packers have to get healthy while the Dolphins use it to their advantage.
Yeah, I agree. Green Bay, it's not necessarily a must win, but for them to be able to sustain the amount of injuries, don't forget they also lost Jermichael Finley, who was a key to that offense for the year. Initially, they thought it was 2 to 3 weeks. Comes out, the injury was a lot worse than they thought. He's probably done for the year. Donald Lee, he scores a touchdown to replace him, jumps on the crowd and injures himself as well, and he's out for 2 weeks. So, I mean, that's a big problem for their offense. They have receivers, and they might have a quarterback, but that's about it for the most part on their offense, and it's going to be hard. And Ricky Williams has started getting going the last couple of weeks that they played.
He looks really
good after the first couple of weeks where Ronnie was the one, and he wasn't really getting much playing time. Now they're starting to look similar to the way they did last year before Ronnie Brown got hurt. And with that offense moving well, and they're finally getting the ball downfield to Brandon Marshall a little bit more the last couple of games, I expect them to be able to expose some of the injuries on the defense of Green Bay and finally win this game going away.
Now, let's look at another team struggling with injuries. The Indianapolis Colts have lost a lot of key players. Rob Sanders, Melvin Bullitt, Joseph Adai, and they've struggled to win games. They did win against Kansas City at home last week, but they didn't look their best. No, and now they're playing a Washington Redskins team in Washington who has made a living this year on capitalizing on good teams not playing up to their potential. You think the Redskins might be able to sneak another win through before people start to
LeBron Landry keeps saying that people are doubting us and they're saying we can't win this game, we can't beat that team, but we're just going out and doing our job and beating good teams. Last couple of weeks, I think Philadelphia and Green Bay, two pretty solid clubs. But I think they're going to have a difficult time finding a way to beat this Indy team. I think it's hungry. They're finally tied for first, tied for last as well in their division. But I think Indianapolis, that passing offense, they're healthy. They got Marshawn, who's going to be playing his second week now. He's getting some more reps in practice. That offense should get into gear. And despite the fact that defensively teams can expose them, I still have some questions with Ryan Terrain, whether or not he's an every down back. He's looked pretty good so far, but will he be able to carry the workload that's needed out of that Washington offense to open things up for them on the outside?
Well, I think LeBron Landry looks fantastic. If anybody needs to be getting more respect, it's LeBron Landry, who I think has elevated himself to the level of Troy Polamalu in the top tier of safeties in this game. However, that Redskins defense last in the league in total yardage, and I think it's going to be a big day for Peyton Manning, and I think the Colts will pull it out.
Yeah, I think so as well. All right, well, how about another key game? Atlanta going on the road, the 4-1 Falcons going over to Philadelphia. Should be a pretty intriguing matchup. Michael Vick is questionable. He says he doesn't need to practice, he can just show up and play, which, knowing his talent level, it's certainly possible. But if he doesn't play, which it looks like Call, in my estimation, is going to end up being the starter, it hinders them a little bit. What do you think?
I like Atlanta here. I think Atlanta is the quietest 4-1 team you've got in the league. I think they've really played less than their potential. I think we're waiting for that big wake-up game where Atlanta really comes out and sticks it to a team and shows what they can do. I think this could be that game, especially if Vic's out. I like the Eagles' chances a lot more with Vic because of their problems on the offensive line and because I think Atlanta can take advantage of some of that, get to the quarterback, and if you've got Kevin Kolb, he might be more of a sitting duck. But especially with Kolb starting, I think I like the Falcons here.
Well, I actually like Philadelphia. I think Kevin Kolb showed last week that he showed some of the promise that he had shown last year. He can get the ball downfield to some of his receivers. Sean McCoy, apparently the programs don't stop him at all. He had a great game. That offense shouldn't have too much trouble moving the ball. Atlanta's been a team that's given some yards but not a lot of points. And I think that will occur again. I think it's actually going to be a pretty low-scoring game. Both defenses play well. But I think Philadelphia at home is going to find a way to win the game.
All right, well, how about these two teams chasing Atlanta in the NFC South? The Saints, surprisingly 3-2, coming off a loss to the Arizona Cardinals, and now going to Tampa Bay, who's 3-1, and pulling out comeback miraculous wins left and right. Where do you see this going?
I think Tampa, as good as their record shows, I think they've done a lot of it with smoke and mirrors. They've won a couple games that maybe they shouldn't have, and I think that this week it's gonna catch up to them. New Orleans knows they should have lost last week to Arizona, knows that they were a much better team than the team that they played on the field, and found a way to lose that game. I don't see that happening 2 weeks in a row. I think New Orleans finally has a big day offensively and wins this game big.
I agree with all your points, but I'm going to come to a different conclusion. I take the Bucs here, almost for a lot of the reasons you said. I think the Bucs have been winning games that they shouldn't have been winning and really haven't played their best. And the Saints have been finding ways to lose games that they should have been winning. And I think here the Bucs come through with a game that's actually a little more well played, and the Saints maybe find another way to give one away. In Tampa, you've got the pirate ship, the cannons glaring, and Josh Freeman, who seems like, even if he's not the most efficient of quarterbacks or at the highest rating in the league, that he finds ways to win.
Finds ways to win games. He's similar to a Vince Young type quarterback, I think, in the way he moves the ball and the way he, like you said, he wins games.
Well, and also Tampa Bay, 4-2 against the Saints in their last 6 games, including a victory last season. I think this could be an upset for the Saints. I think it's starting to look like a Super Bowl hangover year down in New Orleans.
They might still be partying down there from the way the team has played so far this year.
They seem to think that last year's Super Bowl will have carried over 5 weeks into this season, and I can't say without that running, without Reggie Bush and Peter Thomas.
Yeah, that's really hurt.
Upset special of the week. I'm taking the Bucs.
I just can't do it. I just can't do it. But who knows? Well, only time will tell. Well, thank you very much for watching Week 6 of Fireside Football. We hope to catch you here again next week.